Hello. Hope you're having a wonderful day so far, and thanks for checking out a bit of What Was That Radio and a conversation with the Matchstick Skeletons. My name is John Williams. I'm the owner and operator of whatwasthatradio.com. It is a place to discover true modern rock alternative. It's an arts academy. It's a podcast split into two in this moment, soon to be three, and also a community of wazzers. And I've got to know Newman of Matchstick Skeletons across the last 12 years. This guy is unbelievably talented, crazy driven. And quite frankly, there's no need in giving too much of an intro here because we're going to dive in and dissect his inspiration and the Matchstick Skeletons creations in a conversation with the Matchstick Skeletons. Did I say that twice or three times? The Matchstick Skeletons? If it wasn't two, it's three now. And I'd really appreciate if you if you enjoy this in any which way or shape or form, as I trip over a sentence I was creating as if it was my first ever, consider a like, a subscription to this YouTube account, or a share. And thanks for your time. Here's a conversation with New and the Matchstick Skeletons.
Oh, dude, sorry about that. I do that drive all the time. It's never that bad, but isn't that just the most LA excuse ever? It's like, time just doubled. I was like, yeah.
No, that's all right. Zero issues whatsoever. We were just hanging out and just going through some of the live performances and some of the recent songs on the record. I mean, at the end of the show earlier, I'd already played the whole record for the last hour of the show and sort of
You're a legend. I appreciate you, man.
said we're going to dissect it, but also mainly hinting at the fact that we're going to do that together. But I mean,
excellent. What a beautiful room you have too. I haven't seen this thing.
Harley and Jody and I, we think it's a year this week. Jody's my partner, and I've moved in with her a year ago.
Sweet.
Harley's a 7-year-old son. They love that 70s aesthetic, and so this is all. Harley did the tree, and Jody's got everything else put together, and I've just been allowed to plonk my computer in the corner here. Really,
it's perfect. I liked your place under the stairs too, but I like this more. This is great.
Yeah, under the stairs was cramped. I mean, at the start of this venture, I moved into the closet in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And Jody, we got places for everything else and green screened it and painted it. But then,
sick.
Yeah, the chair touching the back. After a while, I was just like, well, I feel like I've been in a real tight spot for a while. It'd be nice to open it up. And Jody said, why not come down here? So it's glorious. You look like you're in your living room too.
I am. Living room / I basically never leave this room, but / studio. You look over here, we got all the keyboards and stuff. Come on. I can't turn this without unplugging some stuff, but
no, that's all right. No, that's wonderful. Man. So where are you, if you were driving back from Hollywood, where in and abouts are you?
So I'm in Hermosa Beach, which is like kind of south LA. It's like south of LAX. But it's great. I can put a surfboard under my arm, walk like 2 blocks and get in the ocean. So it's like, it's hard to, here, I got to ask you this first. Am I allowed to swear on this show? I think I always mess this up.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want for the most part.
Good.
Yeah.
It's hard to bitch about is what I was going to say.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. And, you've been in that spot the whole time that we've been talking about your last few months, or is this a recent move in?
No, yeah, we've been paying rent here for like a year and change. But then like during a lot of the pandemic, I was in the desert. And like my wife didn't get her green card till like 2-3 months ago. So I was kind of just sitting here solo for like a year, and hence I finished a record, but it was pretty odd. To move to this big bad city full of like 18 million people and be like, it's illegal to meet people. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Hence, I sat here and wrote songs and went surfing, and it was all right.
But how tough that must have been? Extremely tough on you and your partner to be separated like that. I mean, how did you cope with that?
Cause I'd say cause a tour, like we're pretty well versed in long distance, anyways. But that's like it's coming and you know when it's ending. Versus this was just like at the whim of the plague and the government, we're going to get a letter at some point. So I'd say, yeah, it was really hard. But like, thankfully, we'd kind of done some version of that before, and just a lot of communication and, ups and downs, man. But she's here now, and it's great.
Yeah, and you still had the ability to communicate and internet when you were in the RV and all over the flipping desert.
Yeah, so it wasn't like we weren't talking every day, but it was just like accidental long distance is no fun. And like, we had this big, ridiculous plan to do together. And in some ways, it was convenient that like the city was totally shut for the first year I was here. So it's not like I went and did all the fun stuff. And then I'm like, you'd love it. You should try it. It was like, did none of that stuff until she actually got down here. I don't know if you can hear my dog. He's just howling at me, but it's why I'm using this like very directional microphone so you can't hear him.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
Get out of here.
Yeah, my Theo the cat is not here at the minute. He's probably upstairs trying to smooze the other two, but he usually, I don't know if you can see his bed, is just to my left-hand side. Excellent. Here to your right.
Excellent.
But like, if we backtrack all the way back, I mean, you've been sending me. I mean, we've known each other for years, but you've been sending me songs that have amounted to what have become after being sliced and diced and fleshed out and created and recreated. You know, the latest record and Change the Channel.
Yeah.
Where do you want to? If we go right back to the start of this, and you're like, right, okay, Matchstick Skeletons full length record. Was the initial plan to go down to the desert and do what you did? You know,
No,
is that really what the point was?
we kind of fell into that, right? Like basically whatever. Yeah, let's go back to when shoot Head of the Herd in the face to start this. Call that 2015, end of 2015 and 2016. Because I've known you for like 10, 11 years, right? Like we've been coming to I mentioned Victoria in 2010, 2011.
Yeah,
maybe?
that's correct. Yeah.
So then, yeah, it came to the point where that thing had to end and this thing had to start. But really, like, we worked on it very quietly and very slowly, and just in private. So it was just kind of like, one, we wanted to see if it was actually a good idea before we said it out loud that we were doing it. And then you would have been, I'm trying to think, when we got the record mixed, it was probably like 2017, because I did the Volta Blanca thing for a bit, and I just kind of wandered around in a puddle for a while trying to figure out what to do. But it was probably 2017 that I first was like, hey man, I'm doing something. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah, and then you sent me a SoundCloud link to like what felt like 100 things. It
was a fair few, and like at a fair few of those made the EP, and like Told You So was on there, already down. Those made the record. So like, some of the first ideas we had were good, some of them weren't, and some of them we're still toying with. Like Cole was here for a week last week, and we were still juggling around some of that stuff from like the 2017 sessions, just trying to see if there's a way that they can fit into like where we want to go. Not like what we've done, but kind of where we want to go. Because we had a sound, we veered away from it, kind of came back to it. And then in that time, we've put out some music and the world's changed completely. And so have we. So it's like, it's tough to tell what you want to hang on to and what you're hanging on to just for fear of letting go of it, you know?
And are you talking in a sense of revisiting lyrical content or riffs? Or do you find that the art, when it's melted all together, then is one and the same for you?
No, I'd say they are different, because like there's sonic elements of it where I really want it to sound like that 3 years ago, and I really don't want to sound like that now. And there's stuff that I was talking about then that either felt good to talk about then, and I'm either embarrassed of, or I feel like I've moved on and it's not relevant to me, and maybe not relevant to listeners, but mostly not relevant to me, because I don't know what people are going to think. But I can know that if it doesn't feel good to sing it, I probably won't sing it with heart. And if I don't sing it with heart, who's going to give a shit, you know?
Yeah, it always comes back to authenticity. I mean, that's the number one word I say in all these conversations is authenticity. It shines through. However, I think what I'd like to paint a picture a bit more, what I was sort of bigging up about you earlier, is your approach to this. To me, it's clinical. And in the 10 years, I mean, really, I guess it's closer to 11 years, if not 11 and a half at this point.
Yeah.
Since we first met. You've always shown me, like I was raised to, when you're in that role, if you're a shelf stacker, for example, when I was stacking bananas in a produce stand when I was 15, 16, my dad would say, right, try and learn the salad pack guys, the apple aisle, try and learn the whole produce section, try and become indispensable, try and learn everything you can within your realm where you are, and then try and keep growing and branching out.
Yeah.
And what I was saying about you on the air earlier is something that you've always shown, is that you will ask so many questions. You know, I remember when you were speaking to Brian at The Zone about music direction and how he goes about sourcing music, how can this work in? And then, you know, around our office, we were saying, oh, here's an independent band servicing their music through DMDS and Yangaroo, and that wasn't really ever seen before. And so that speaks volumes about how you go about researching to get your craft out there. And I think I'd love for you to share where that was born from. Where did that fire come from to then go above and beyond just your art to learn how the melding pot of all of it in together, how those systems work to then all correlate, and how that was important to you?
Yeah, like I'd say a big part of it is if you do, like, whatever, if you end up being in the music industry or in the arts in general, you're gonna get like 1,000 no's for every yes you get. And so whatever, back then the no's were, we're not gonna pay to do radio for you, we're not gonna sign you, so fuck off. It's kind of the thing. And so I could either take that as, okay, it sucks, ugh, that's the end of it, I'll go get a job. Or okay, well, how do I do this without them? And how it was okay, if they won't pay to make the record and push it on radio, I guess I can hire a third-party radio plugger who knows how to do that and has some relationships, so I can walk into these rooms not as a total stranger. And it's just the kind of thing, like, it's also like, as a younger person, I was a very confident man. And so like there was like the first Hoth record like was entirely produced on a laptop in a bedroom with extreme confidence that it was going to sound good. And then once I learned more about making rock and roll records, then I kind of fell into this idea of like there's a right and a wrong way to do it, and I loved that way. And then I kind of, looked down on how I did that. Then full circle, you learn how to make records, and then you learn there's not really a way to make them. You just make them. If they feel good, they're probably good. And then when Cole was here last week, the first day, we just kind of drove around and listened to music, and we went and watched the sunset, and we just talked, and we played each other a ton of music. And I played him a ton of that stuff from when I was like 19 to 22 and had no clue, but had the confidence of a raging bull. Just to be like, I envy that little Newman who was dumb enough to try ridiculous things that once I learned like how to make records, I was scared to do. But I'm falling back into it. Just improvise, puke it out, and then look at it and see if it looks like a song.
But what even inspired your lust for music in the first place?
It was like, I don't know. I feel like for as long as I can remember, like making my own thoughts. The first strong one was, I'm gonna be in a band, and I'm happy to pretty much do that till I drop. But it wasn't like when I played the piano at 5, I was like, oh my god, I'm great at this. Like I sucked at it, and I didn't really enjoy it. But when I picked up a bass at like 12, I literally like slept with it in my bed next to me, and I was just like playing like Porcelain by the Chili Peppers right before bed, and then I'd go to bed, and then and that's all I did, and that's all I thought about. And I basically just like quit all the other stuff I was doing. Like I played hockey with Wes, my buddy, we've been in bands forever, like Wes Mack. And we basically told the hockey league, we're like, hey, if we're not on the same team, we're both gonna quit because like we're in a band now, and that's more important.
Well, there you go.
So they put us on the same team, and we kept doing that for like 10 years after that. But it was just kind of once the switch flipped, it never unflipped for me. And that's good and bad as like a very young person to pick something like pretty ridiculous and almost impossible. Because it wasn't like I was just like, oh, I want to have music in my life. It's like, no, I want to be like a real motherfucker, and I want to be a touring rock and roll dude, So yeah, well, it was early and it was strong, and I feel identical, which is ridiculous.
So what was the path to leading to lead singer then? If you went piano and then to bass, when did you then hit on guitar and then decide, well, hang on a second, I want to front this thing?
Yeah, well, it was kind of like, so in that band with Wes, we were both singing a lot. He was probably doing 2/3, I was doing 1/3. And then in college, we were still doing this. We were writing in very different ways. So at that point, we were kind of had like 2 lead singers. And from that, like I made a lot of electronic music, which I was the lead, but it wasn't a band. So it wasn't the same feeling as like singing in a band. And with the Head of the Herd stuff, it was like, okay, cool, I'm a singer now. But I wasn't a guitar player. I don't even think I had a guitar amp when we made that first record. Like I was like bass player at my heart still. I think like if you said do one thing till you die, I'd say play bass. But when we started to tour, I was like, okay, I guess I got to learn how to play guitar, which is why I have like, I think a very ridiculous, stupid style of playing. But it's kind of has its own identity because I just don't think like a guy who went to guitar lessons,
Well, yeah, I mean, that speaks volumes for, I wouldn't even say, yeah, it's unique to you. It's your way of doing it. And that's what makes it authentic to yourself. It's your take on it. I never even realized, I didn't know these in all this year. Oh my God, I have to explain. I've been fighting off a cold for a few days, and it's just suddenly smacked me right before this broadcast started.
Oh, you poor man.
And I feel I'm fine, but I'm looking at myself in the camera, and I look like I just woke up.
I think you look dazzling.
Well, that's very kind of you, but and I feel like I'm holding back a lot of coughs. It's so I've got the throat tea here. Just if everyone's like, this guy looks as if he's, how chilled out is this guy? I will also add, I did go for 420 steps about an hour and a half ago after the show had finished. To try and just chill, and I feel that I hit the over chill button,
Yeah, that's fair. That happens sometimes. It's good you're counting your steps though.
Help! Oh shit! I had to do some Cali for New to get ready for New, so I had to do some Cali 420. Oh no. Yeah. Anyway,
appreciate you welcoming me.
Just so we know where we're all at right now. I'm so excited to speak with you because it's been so long, but I'm also extremely fucking relaxed at the same time.
Perfect. That's the right zone. That's where the Venn diagram should meet for chats like this.
Exactly. Yeah. No, this is by far probably the most in that realm I've been live on the internet. So welcome, everyone.
Welcome, Jonathan.
Grab a cup of tea or a coffee or whatever does it for you. No, what we were watching before the stream started was the live in studio performances, but also the I'm Right Here video, which is so good and
Thank
trippy.
you.
And I was asking, oh yeah, did it list who the animation was underneath? And yes, it was. It was Greg Doble. And that again speaks to just the way that you approach everything. So now let's jump all the way back again after we've got that context of your growing up and what sort of navigated your path to fronting a band, and then Matchstick Skeletons. So you decide, I'm going down to the desert. I mean, some of my favorite bands that are tattooed on my arm here, you know, Queens of Stone Age is right there, right? You're going down to the desert. So for me, and knowing you, I already know the answer why, but for those that aren't maybe aware of your art, why did it have to be the desert for this? It's just so befitting of the sound.
Yeah, like sonically it's important. And like honestly, my grandma lived in the desert my whole life. So I've been coming there every year since I was in diapers, you know. And even like when I moved down here, the first place I went there for a month, and the second I got there, I was like, okay, this is home. Like this already felt so much like home. And so whatever, beginning of 2020, we were on the road with Glorious Sons for like a couple weeks in the States. We played Denver, and then like a week late, like this was late February. So then, you know, a week later, the world is totally shutting down. I live in an apartment building here, and we don't know how radioactive this thing is. And I'm just like, I don't want my 18 million neighbors anywhere near me. So I figured, you know, if I have to be isolated, why not get super, super isolated? And I know Joshua Tree is a couple hours away, and I got the band's RV, and I have enough gear that I could make a remote studio in the RV, and I could bring enough camera gear that I could probably film something. I just figured, like, I don't want to sit here in my apartment scared.
Yeah.
And if I go out there, at least there'll be the freedom of mind to express myself in a different way. So I didn't really have a total plan. I figured, like, also like Matty was going to the studio for 1 or 2 days, and I'd sent him a whole lot of stuff to drum on. And I had a flight booked to Vancouver to go like produce that session, but I pulled the plug. I was just like, not on the session, but on me flying. I was just like, you could still fly everywhere, but I figured like this is just getting too sketchy. And if I get stuck in Vancouver and my dog's in a kennel here, like that's an actual problem.
Yeah.
So I was like, and Matty knows how to drum. So I was like, just go do your thing and send him to me.
Yeah.
And pretty much a couple days after that, I would have hit the des. And, you know, I feel like most of us at that moment were like, I'm going to go do something for 2 weeks. So I packed enough clothes for 2 weeks, brought enough gear for like what I thought was 2 weeks. And then I didn't come back to the city for like 3 months. I came back the day they opened the beaches so I could go surfing again.
But was that particularly timed or just by...
No, I was like, I was just like, well, I should probably go where I pay rent at some point. And then they're like, I think the beaches open May 15th. So I came back May 15th.
There you go.
But in the interim, you know, sonically and lyrically, the desert was a beautiful place, and it's just like, you know, you got all these 600-year-old alien trees and nobody around, and there's just like coyotes you hear in the distance, and it just like, especially like that first song, The Summer. Ooh, that was exactly what we needed. And we had that song kind of put together. Like I had worked on that one with Brett in, I guess, Hamilton the fall before a little bit.
Yeah, Mr. Emmons of Glorious Sons.
Yeah. And then, but we've kind of cinched everything up when I was in the desert. And then we ran, and, you know, we got Mark Rankin to mix it. And the fact that he picked up the phone when I called blew my mind.
Yeah.
So he kind of did that whole back half. Like Ben Kaplan mixed the stuff that I would have sent you the couple years prior. And so he's like, you know, mother dude, Biffy Clyro. And he had been an engineer and a producer on some Hoth stuff, and I just like, he's a wizard, man.
He really is.
Cool. And then we just kind of wanted to shake it up a little bit for the back half. And I feel like Rankin was supposed to do a Spoon record, but then the plague put a pin in that, so he had some time. And I think he did the hell out of it, man. And it's a very different sound, you know. I couldn't have mixed it like that. Ben couldn't have mixed it like that. I think he just hit the nail on the head. And, you know, it's bridging a lot of sounds on one album, which is good or bad. And, you know, I choose to think it's good.
No, I think it's good as well. I think it's very, very good. I mean, it's one of my favorite records of the year. And that's why I love that context there, because I was going to put to you that there is a point halfway through the record where it does start to travel in a slightly different direction, but there's no, it's not like they shifted gear and didn't put the clutch down properly. Like, it's smooth. It's not, oh shit, we've changed into a new world here. We're on to chapter 2 or the second half or whatever. Like, it flows very, very smoothly.
And we purposely didn't put like the Kaplan songs and then the Rankin songs. We kind of peppered them through, but I think like the internet is a big turning point. But then on the vinyl, when you do the flip side, Desperate Love is the first one of side B, and that's a statement, making that the first one on side B, because that's like the heaviest. We're in C standard and just chugging away. It's bonkers, man.
Yeah, well, we may as well play a few samples of this, just 30 seconds of the three we've just touched on.
Yeah, if you hit the internet and then Desperate Love, even if a couple seconds of each, you'll be like,
Well, I also want to we'll do a little bit of the summer as well here.
Thank you.
Hopefully that isn't distorting for you. Then we'll skip in about 30. Right, firstly, I'm so glad that we're finally about to fucking dissect this, man, because we've been saying this for like a year.
It's about time.
And it's such a great... Firstly, Susie's Arrival. I love the intro and the extra here. I love that Queens of the Stone Age inspired. I'm presuming that cheeky sort of No One Knows era.
Bit of that vibe. And the voice actress who did that is Gray Griffin, who's a singer who I posted, like that Bang Bang cover that I posted.
Yeah.
That's with her. And she's like a kind of a country singer, but she's on The Simpsons and stuff, man. She's crazy. And she just knocked it out of the park. Maddie wrote the script for her, and she sent it back, and it was like, we have no notes. It's good.
Actually, you may as well play the opening because it's 39 seconds.
Thanks, Charlie. I'm Susie Wormwood, and welcome once again to this week's TMS Guide. And boy, oh boy, do we have something magnificent in store for you. A Technicolor television exclusive entitled Change the Channel. Brought to you by our friends at Lucky Lights. When America takes a drag, they get lucky with Lucky Lights.
Don't change that dial.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And get that little guitar squealy thing is on this little amp.
Oh.
So I got the Roots and Blues Festival in Salmon Arm?
Yeah.
So there's a dude there who sells like cigar box guitars and these little goofy amps. And I use this on like every record. It's ridiculous. I bought it like half as a joke. I was like, what'll I use this for? And I use it every time.
Let's listen to that again. Just that.
Yeah. That's Ryan just doing a band. And all that, like his kind of solo at the end too. Like I think he did, I don't want to say one, maybe 2 takes of it. And it's all on that.
Let's play that. Is it...
all that chippy shit you hear in the background.
Okay. Yeah, I love the interplay between the guitars in this song. And I also love just sort of how relaxed the vocal is, right? It's setting the scene. Yeah. And you were alluding to and saying that, okay, when you're falling asleep in the desert, and that inspired this song?
Yeah, and honestly, a big part of the delivery was just Brett telling me, do less. Because I kept kind of going to do my thing. My thing didn't work for this. So he's just like, don't go full Newman on me. Just hold the note. And I don't hold notes because I'm bad at holding notes, but it made me try. and it worked out sweet. And the fun thing about Ryan on this guitar part too is like he's very smart. He's too smart. So I am always trying to dumb him down as much as possible. So you throw him like a guitar he's never played in this stupid little amp, and you give him one take, and something cool happens. Because if you let him think really hard, it's gonna sound way too good.
So what, you gave him just like maybe 2 listens through of his where you're going to be, and then just
pretty much
do you?
Yeah. And I don't even think we probably didn't even use headphones. We probably just had the mains on because that was just the vibe. And that was like when we were rehearsing right before that tour. We put together a couple of those songs, but that's the thing. It's like put us in a room and good stuff happens, but then we couldn't get in a room for 2 years, and it was weird, man. But I was glad we had that little session before to kind of shore up some of these ideas, and that might have even been before Matty hit the drums on them. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So the order, I've never made a record in this particular order, but I'm actually I think that's one of the reasons it came out unique, was just like we couldn't fall into the usual routine or the usual traps or try the usual tricks. It was just like, improvise in real time, and you either do it or you don't, or you wait till the world's back to normal, but that ain't happening.
Well, yeah. And that's the biggest thing I've been saying again in these conversations is it's the authenticity that shines through, and people going back to school, learning new skills, developing as an individual, developing as a team, and every which way. I mean, that's another thing I was saying before you joined us, is that your photography and the video capture work you did out, in the RV, there's all these new things that not that you weren't playing with it before, but you've become you've become pro at. It's taken the next big leap.
Yeah, and it was just kind of, trial by fire. It was just like, well, whatever, I have a camera. We'd be real dumb not to take it to the desert while I'm making a record. And one trippy thread that we're talking about, like, okay, when did you fall in love with this? And then here's where we are. So that band that I started with, Wes, the drummer's name was Chris Doble. We all played hockey together. And his little brother's name is Greg Doble, who ended up animating the I'm Right Here video 20 years later. Wow.
Okay. That is sweet.
Yeah. Isn't that ridiculous? He's amazing. And he did like a Dirty Nil video and a No Bro video. And I used to play hockey with a girl from No Bro. Look at Trails West, Calgary, Alberta, just bringing musicians together.
Wow. I love the fact that everyone's still connected. And then even so that they're then hiring their family members. That's great. Yeah. It's like, imagine if I was to say to my little brother as a kid, in 20 years, you'll be, I don't know what I would say back then, you'll be driving Neu around on tour because you've always wanted to be a bus driver, haven't you? Well, you could be driving my friend Neu.
Excellent.
And then here we are, flash forward. No, I love that. And I'd certainly, that's where I couldn't click with the Dirty Nil work and the No Bro. I was like, this animation of the tears, this seems very similar and unique.
Same fella, yeah.
I appreciate you tying those points together in my mind, because I lazily at the time didn't look further other than after yours to see who the credit was.
No, that's fine. But yeah, it was like, I was just driving around. What was I? I was in like Palm Desert, and I just called Greg out of the blue. I hadn't talked to him in a minute. And I was just like, I have a ridiculous idea. Would you like to participate? And he said yes. And then, it took a while because I didn't have the parts for him. But once I had the parts, he shot me like, whatever, one version, 2 versions back. And I was like, this is good. It's no notes.
Perfect. You get lucky with those.
Yeah.
/ just really great choices in the first place. And people that, that's the key to it though, is finding people that just get a sense of where your art's going. They don't try and bring any other flair. Yeah. They roll with the energy you're going with. And that's the key. That's certainly what I've learned in stepping away and building what was that the last year and a half.
Proud of you, by the way.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's a hustle. It's a lot of work. But the key is being, you already know this from being a musician. The key is just to be shrewd and to set sensible goals. I mean, that was the biggest thing at the start for me, was having a list of 30 things a day to do. Now I just have the 3 to 4 and try and not beat myself up. There's a few days a week where I do get a bit harsh on myself, or I should have done more today, but there's only so much you can do to a certain level. If you don't rest, then you're not going to have that level and get anything done properly.
Yeah, man. Can't pour from an empty cup, and you'll pull your hair out if you try to be everyone to everyone all the time, including yourself.
Yeah.
But if you don't do any of it, you're also in a bad spot. So it's hard.
Balance is key. But I mean, I'd say I've gone to the school of YouTube, just learning as much as I can about editing and about building algorithms and websites and everything in between, and design. And I redesigned everything a few months ago. And for me, I feel that's also why I held off with you. Is like I texted and said, I just want to get the foundation set first. And when people come across this, if they're fans of what you do, or they stumble into it to go, okay, this looks at least fucking professional. Like the initial website, the initial design was like, oh, that's cool. Did a 10-year-old do that on TikTok? Now it looks like, maybe a 35-year-old did it on TikTok, but he's tried hard, and it's a bit more professional.
Yeah. Do you remember like when bands used to have websites on GeoCities, like the free Yahoo web design thing?
Yeah.
Where, like, there was all these silly like animations you could just put on for free. So like for no reason, you just have like a rhino running across the screen, there's some website called like the GeoCitiesizer, and you can put in any website and they make it look like a dog shit 90s GeoCities site.
Oh, I like.
It's amazing.
Okay.
So you can put like BBC in, and it's just like the fonts are terrible, nothing's formatted. It's great.
Wow, that's a sweet engine. I want to check that out. I was going to say, because back then it was just like you put those little things on it to try and stand out, whereas now on Instagram, you put a picture of your face and then the tour poster on the second slide. That's how you try and stand out.
Exactly. Yeah, it's insane.
Just to explain the differential there. You were highlighting the internet and desperate love. I was going to talk to you about the internet. So let's play a little sample here, the start of it.
2, 3, 4.
Oh gosh, who's that counting? I'm just joking. Are you playing along to this?
Trying to remember what the part is.
All right. Well, when it looks like you've remembered it, I'll bring the audio down this end to hear it.
It's such a ridiculous part. Also, shout out to Jake Money for giving me this for my birthday like 10 years ago. Jake Money's a man that only ever, like, he never has a phone number, or if he does, it changes, but he just shows up on the streets of Vancouver, and then you hang out for like a night straight, and then he disappears again into the woods. But he always shows up with beautiful gifts, and this was one of them.
And his birth name is Jake Money because he sounds like a fucking Marvel character when you put it like that.
Occasionally, he goes French, and he's Jake Monet. One time, he just had a dollar sign on the back of his shirt, and he said, "My name's Jake." And he pointed to it. Here's the thing: if you know him, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, the elusive Jake Monet.
But that part's so silly, right? It's I've shied away or purposely not used happy major anything in a lot of the songs because like it bugs me. But then not this just super hooky kind of happy, chirpy, ridiculous synth line. So I played it on the Moog. But I just remember when my hands laid down, I was like, I've never put my hands here. I told myself I wouldn't, and then I just like loved it. But it's ridiculous, and it's super chromatic too. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like, and those last two notes, they're dumb as hell. You get fired, you get kicked out of music school if you play those notes. But I actually think they work pretty good.
But you've said that a few times now.
Yeah.
Just part of the shtick, or why? Because you know it's art. You know it sounds good for. You know you've put it in there for a reason. Is it in there to challenge that type of musicianship, or is it in there to just have that playful off kilter approach to the song?
Yeah, I guess like for us, like we always try to do the kind of dumbest thing. But you do like I don't know. You take 10 left turns and it either works or it's a nightmare. And this was one where I was like, this is hooky. Maybe it's too hooky. Is this a terrible hook? And then I was like, no, it's my favorite hook on the record. I love it.
And then lyrically, how have you approached writing this album? Is it an entire story wrapped up into a set of scenes and circumstance, or is it individually one by one? Is it about characters? Do you write about yourself? Do you blend them in between? And ultimately share what you wish to share?
Yeah, like I'd say there wasn't like an umbrella that I wanted lyrically to be over the whole thing. But with this song, this is probably like the most depressing lyrics on the whole album. So I felt like it had to go over the happiest song, or it would just be like doubling down on misery.
Yeah.
So it's just like, hence like that super chirpy little synth hook. I was like, okay, this is the time we get to say the saddest stuff. And this is one of the ones I did in Ontario too with Brett. I had kind of a shell of it, and then we worked through the rest of it together. But like, I hope the internet will save me from myself again. It's kind of, that's like the first word in the thing. And if you read the rest of it, it'll kind of make sense among that idea. But some are characters, some are like inflated versions of myself, but like in the root, I'm always there. And this one, I'm especially there. And that's why it just hurts and I couldn't just like have a miserable piano ballad and then sing that shit. It would have been too sad.
Well, let's play a little bit more of the internet.
I'm so useless, I'll improve it, but not today. I'm jumping out of my body again. Not today. I keep a feeling
I mean, you're being a trickster in saying, these are dud notes or dodgy this and dodgy that, but the way that the vocal line is dancing with the rest of the instrumentation is almost orb-like. They're floating through step by step like that, and they're playing within a very finite space, because otherwise you're going to go really, really flat very quickly. But it's brilliant the whole way through, if that makes sense. That's where it takes me when I'm listening to it, particularly on a Friday afternoon when I've had 420 steps.
Well, you got to get your steps in, man.
Yeah.
And like that one too, it kind of reminds me a bit of like one that. Let me just get a guitar.
Which guitar?
I'm just gonna plug this in that stupid little amp I was talking about, so you can hear what it sounds like.
Yeah, sweet. Absolutely.
But kind of like I didn't totally piece this together till now, but like with Already Down, it's like the jazziest melody we've ever had. But you listen to that and it sounds like a pretty straight up rock and roll song, So let me just turn this on. Can you hear that guitar at all?
Yeah.
So if you think about how that part goes, I'm gonna knock this mic over for sure. I don't know where you're coming from. Says I have to go. That's like, I don't know. I've never written anything like that before, and I don't know if I will again. But it's one of those ones that then you frame it up against something different, and it doesn't seem like, trying to make a jazz song into a rock song. It's just like it kind of flows. But there's some stuff that when I wrote it, I was like, I didn't even realize I did it till a month later. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm just saying, like, sometimes it surprises you, because I always think I have similar traps or like ideas, and I always keep getting stuck in them, and then that shows up and it works, and it's like my favorite thing to play. And it's like, okay, just trust your gut and just puke out a bunch of stuff and see what happens.
And so did this one inspire any other songs on the album, or did you go, no, I want to just have that as a singular, I'm not going to do my template next step here?
I think like if I was going to put two kind of similarly, it might be like just sonically, The Internet and I'm Right Here, we wanted them to have a similar vibe, and hence like the keys are such a big part. And I'm Right Here, I wrote that, I was in Idaho. We were at some house with my family, and there was just a piano in the room, and I have a voice memo. If I would be able to find it, I would try. But essentially, like, my whole family's talking in the background, and you just hear me in the background, and you hear the first time I go, dun, da, ga, 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 and that ended up being like the heart of the whole song. But it's probably a 10-minute voice memo of me mumbling, and you hear like 15 people just chattering in the background. And like, that's where I just think I know really smart people who can just kind of sit there and not like put their hands on their instrument and be like, I'm going to go from here to here to here to here. I'm going to go that part to that part. It'll sound like this part. And then you hand them a guitar and the thing's done. And anytime I've tried that, I come up with the worst stuff. So it's always like, I love just kind of hit the red button and then just waste some tape. And by tape, I mean, hard drives. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that takes me back to when I was doing music technology as a mid-teenager, and I was the sequencing, we'd be doing it on Cubase. Yeah. But the sequencing, I just could not, that was not my level of theory. I couldn't wrap my head around theory. I was always a sense of touch and play and experimentation with it. And so my teacher, James, said to me, well, then just play it in and refine it. Play it in and refine every little bit of it, so it saves you, rather than, because I basically spent like 3 months doing a music project and got to the last week and it was trash. And he was like, this is so robotic. Just fucking play it in yourself and layer it up.
Yeah.
And he gave me a little cheeky head start on that intro, and then I took the rest away. But I had a complete brain fart then, because that was going to build into something else. I was going to play a little sample of I'm Right Here. Oh no, that was the question. Is that, so you, just to clarify, you decided to go to the piano and you I got an idea here, or did someone say, oh, Neu, go on, hit that piano, play this little thing for a family, come on.
No, I usually go and I just don't think I got anything good to say. It's like, well, if I'm not helping the conversation, I can probably help the ambiance.
You bypass all connection and just sit at the piano and start. That's how you communicate.
Pretty much, man. I used to go to my grandma's house. This is actually her teacup. But I used to go to my grandma's house, and we'd chat for a second, and then I'd sit on the piano and I'd play for an hour, and she would just kind of sit there and enjoy it, and I'd enjoy playing it. But it was like our connection was more through the music than it was through the conversation, which is like, whatever, maybe that's mean, but we had a really nice time every time.
No, I don't think it's mean at all. If that's what brought you to joy and that's how you communicate, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd rather that than you sit there and be like, Grandma, thank you.
Yeah, still don't have a job.
So the weather, has it been raining lately? Oh, I see someone tidied up the leaves in the backyard. Great to be here.
So it was lovely. And we had like a real connection with him. My grandpa too. And the interesting one, I was talking to Cole because I was trying to put this into a lyric, but she always had flowers on the piano, but she liked to let them die. Because she said like there's different colors in them when you let them die. And someday I'll put that into a song. I just haven't found a way yet. But just she saw colors in them on their way out that she didn't see when they were still kicking. But the second you cut a flower, it's dying. It's on its way. But I like that she just let them drop to the roof of the piano and then swept them up.
Yeah, right. That's how I look at fruit flies. Let them live their life. Why try and catch them? It's too much hard work. Enjoy the beauty of how they go about the destruction of your living room and downstairs and bathroom, wherever they get themselves.
Enjoy how fast they multiply.
Yeah. No, that is a jerk spin-off joke because that is such a touching share. Thank you. I feel like I'm coming back to life after 4 cups of tea, which are not caffeinated, which is also surprising me. But no, that is a wonderful story. I love that you shared that because I think back to conversations with my grandparents and with my grandma on my mum's side, always very open and lots of communication. With my grandfather, he was a bit more, certainly from that realm of England, and 2 generations above me, where it's like, I will share things with you when necessary. I'll communicate with you when I need to. Doesn't mean I don't love you.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I get it, man. It's just a different type of communication.
Yeah.
And if we were born then in that place, we'd probably be the same way,
Did she have favorites? Pardon me. Did she have, I'm choking on anticipation of this question. No, did she have favorites that you would play for her? Or did you always just, go back and play the same set every time and like, Grandma, see you next Saturday?
The thing is like, not to be self-deprecating, I'm not that good at piano. So I would just make stuff up. Cause I just like, even right now, if you're like, play me 5 songs, I don't know if I could play you 5 songs, but I could play you for 5 hours. And there might be some snippets of that are good. But no, I would basically just sit there and improvise in a couple of chords I knew well. So there wasn't much rhyme or reason to it. It was just like whatever came out of me at the moment, Did
you work any of that initial voice note on the phone into I'm Right Here on the album or not?
No, I didn't like clip it because there's so much talking. And if it was a different type of song, I would have, because it would, like it could have been cool just to hear the chatter in the background. But no, it just didn't really fit.
Didn't click. I mean, and then also...
But, there might be a reworking of it someday that does, because I do like the idea. And I actually sent it, when we put the record out, I sent the memo to my mom, and I was like, listen like the whole gang, because I love just the sound of us. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of kids now, too. So it's just like all these young and old voices just talking over each other, and then just this scrappy little piano bit coming together that actually ended up being a song. It's nice.
Well, you've done lots of versions of Stripped Down anyway that you put on YouTube, so that could be next on the list for sure. But I was going to say, it's the penultimate song after then you've got the Susie's Revenge note at the end. So maybe then as well, that's why it didn't quite click if you're trying to bring that in and then you've got that angle already.
Yeah, it's already like not disjointed, but like we wanted to bookend the record and not have like too much more than that. And also like that song is short. I feel like that song's less.
2:38.
Yeah. And that's a couple of those where like sometimes you finish a song and like you shouldn't give a shit about how long it is, but occasionally you finish something and you're like, that's pretty short, or oh god, that's 8 minutes. But that one we're like, that's short, but that's done. Just period. It just didn't feel like something we wanted to stretch too much, because it just felt right.
Let's play a little sample of that then. Because now all I can picture is this, like, you're at your grandma's. Yeah, I played hockey with the boys. Yeah, we went to Timmy's afterwards. You had a good week? Check this out, Grandma.
Do you love me?
It's not far off.
Would you put up with me when it's not easy? Will you believe me when I say I'm right here? Just next to I'm right here.
Yeah, I love the synth in that too.
That just brought a memory back from when we were making it. Originally, I had like basically I had the instrumental before I had the words, and there's another one I was doing in Ontario with Brett, and I showed him what I thought the words were, and I had this like convoluted poem about checking into a hotel at like 3:13 because I was like at the end of our first big tour. We stayed up and we just ended up checking in and then going to the airport and not even like going to the room, and it was like. It was wordy and it was convoluted, and he's like, just write a standard. I was like, nah, I can't. He's like, just write a standard. What are you trying to say? And I'm like, do you love me? He's like, start with that. And then that's the first lyric of the song. And all of a sudden, like I just threw that whole thing away, and we kind of pieced together this just really simple thing. But it made me very uncomfortable, like extremely uncomfortable, because it's easy to be cynical and convoluted and mysterious and not make any sense, and to have to just say, do you love me? Oh, it hurts. But it felt right, and I'm glad he pushed me along. And then when the band heard, that was most of their favorite one anyway. So like, where I didn't have quite the confidence in the tune, they all did, which made me not have to give a shit, you know.
Well, I think it's brilliant. Actually, how did you and Brett become so close in the first place? And for everyone that's just joined us recently, we're talking about Brett of Glorious Sons, a brilliant rock band from the other side of Canada.
It was just that first tour, man. Like, this is now like 8 years ago.
But did they particularly choose you from having heard you, or was it just through booking agents?
No, it was the other way around, man. So basically, we went to Ontario to do our first tour ever, where we did like those 2 GNR dates, and then we had like 5 dates through Ontario. And so we did Toronto and Kingston with them. And then when we had our first headliner tour, like across the country, our agent was like, who do you want to open? And we're like, those guys had that song, Ruby, is super cool. And they came along, and by the end of that tour, they were probably bigger than we were. And we're like, we're going to open for these dudes. And like 5 months later, we did. And then we just kind of stayed buds. And like, I would just always send them music I was working on. And then when, I guess it would have been early in 2019, I was kind of stuck with a lot of instrumentals, and I couldn't get through them. And I wasn't having enough time with my band to work through it. And he just said, come out for a week. And I was like, yes, sir. And we did, and whatever, just slept on his couch, and we just worked 12 hours a day. And at the end of that, this record was almost formed. There was lots of parts of it that we all of a sudden, you could see the finish line, you know? And he's just a lovely, generous, musical dude. And like songs just leap out of that guy. So it was really fun.
Yeah.
I'd heard too many times, you know? You hear a song of yours, especially too many times in a row, and it's hard to break out of it. And it's easy to just keep listening to it on loop and then be like, well, if I don't have an idea, it's terrible. It's like, no, just somebody needs to slap you in the face and tell you to write a standard.
Yeah, it's fascinating because Brett does seem to have these moments where he just doesn't stop writing. But what is it like to actually be in close contact with that? And how would you compare it from all those years ago initially to then where he is now and where the band's at and how he's going about producing and creating?
Well, the thing is, we never wrote songs before. So it's hard. Like, it's the same dude. But like, because we didn't do songs when we met, we just like went on tour. We played songs all the time. But it's just like meeting on tour is weird. And kind of like for the many years we've known each other, like a lot. Like, there's so many musicians that I've only met on tour. And when I'm in some city and they're in some city, we hang out. But we hang out in backstage in buses and bars, and then you say goodbye. And it's always in motion, and it's always kind of in flux. And so to just be stationary for 10 days with someone you've only ever been crisscrossing on tour with, it was really neat. It was like a totally different dynamic because you wake up and you have a chat and you make breakfast and you just try to figure out the day instead of just like, okay, it's a very intense, very concentrated hangout. And then it disappears into like nothing. It's like, oh, well, tomorrow we're still sitting in this room. So if this doesn't work today, we'll do it tomorrow. So it was a good vibe, but I can't compare it to doing songs before because we never did songs before.
But that raises a fascinating angle and point in the sense of just how, when you're in the realm, like how we met initially, I'm on the radio. I'm very fortunate to have been on the radio. You're in a rock band. You want to get around the world and flipping sell out arenas. And here's our shit, please listen to it. And then, I think back to conversations we had when you were sat on, initially I was walking by and you were sat down by a few outdoor venues at Rifflandia. There's all these little fleeting steps.
Oh yeah, when I was playing with Lydia, we hung out.
Yeah, exactly. And then right when you were playing in the theater, and all these little connect the dots where we're gradually getting to know each other through you either coming to the station for an interview pre-show or me going to the show and that 10-15 minutes before or after.
Yeah.
And then it took, with us, it's like really 3 or 4 years of building a friendship and understanding like, oh, I like this guy. Like there's a good connection here. But then even then, it's only been really in these last couple of years where, I've texted you, at points as much as I've texted, I barely text. So it's like, okay, we've got conversation going, the relaying emails with the songs and everything like that. And it's like, now I feel like I'm unlocking you even further in this moment. And that's what I thoroughly love about how fortunate I've been to do this for a career and now trying to do it on my own, is that all these conversations, they get to a point where they're so great, like all these amazing things you've shared today and that I've learned for the first time, but it took the 10 years to get there. And you got it's the journey to get there. You can't expect to get everything straight away.
No. Do you remember I called you on your birthday once and you picked up? You're like, "Did you mean to call me?" I was like,
yeah,
motherfucker.
Yeah, I was genuinely surprised. I'll tell you why that is though, because what I've learned hugely, what a massive lesson for me has been the last year and a half, is realizing what the friendships were and what the industry connections were, and thus what the industry friendships were. There's a big differential. It's like I've made reference to when I stacked shelves and worked at a produce department, and when right before I moved to this country 12 years ago, was like a team leader on a produce department, like assistant manager. And I hired my own brother because you want to have a team that think like-minded and then you galvanize that team and you do the best you can, and they respect and love keeping it the tightest they can and the waist down and all these things in that realm of world. Well, then you skip forward to 10 years of radio and all these friendships. And quite frankly, I've learned big time in the last year, if we're focusing on just bands, that I'm no longer of interest. And that's not because it's throwing away. I don't want to say, I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but there's been a lot of bands that have said, no, I don't want to do a chat, or no, I don't want to help the station. Because I'm no longer in a mainstream or helping, they'd rather get the 50,000 that used to be than the 5 to 50 to 500 that could be here. And that's fine. They've got a different mindset. And that's what my partner Jody has been saying. And I'm coming to the summary of this point and share. And Jody upstairs, my partner who I love to bits, has said, don't forget to lean into those that are reaching out. When someone like you is texting all the time and I'm like, well, I want him to wait until I'm ready with the better setup and everything's good to go. But I spent too much time a few months ago, and every now and again I trip up and get tired and think about, well, I missed this friendship and I missed this connection, but it's okay. I need to be at ease with that and drive forward in making new ones.
Come back too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Come and go.
Everyone's just trying to swim.
Like when Hoth broke up, I texted you. I'm like, it's good that we can just be friends and you don't have to think I want some shit from you now.
Yeah, it sort of breaks that mold.
Friends with radio people is kind of funny because, they can make your life really good. So when I didn't have a rock and roll band and I still wanted to hang out, it was like, I'm not using you. I just like you. When I'm playing with Lydia, come meet me on the street and let's have a chat. Yeah,
and just catch up. But I mean, the other thing was, it's not like I was always like the evening guy or the midday guy, and most of the time, the decisions aren't even in my hands. I actually, one of my favorite moments in broadcasting, and my boss would, my old boss man, we both left on the same day, but Johnny would probably give me a kick in the shin and say, "You bastard, you fucker." But I got in huge hot lava when in my second year at the station, I've been going off about Glorious Sons tenfold. Like, they're going to be huge, and wasn't really getting any traction. And that was when I was starting to learn about, learn the roles, learn the systems. And it's not like anyone said, shut up. It's just like, there's a system here. They're going to be on a label. Black Box are going to roll this out at a certain point, and we're not going to jump on it now. We might not jump on it. It depends on the song and all these things. I was like, oh my God, it's a great rock song. Play it. We're a modern rock station. I was still of that ilk and learning about how it worked. And they were playing in town, sold out show with Northcote in support. And I told...
That man's got a voice on him. My God.
Matt is a wonderful soul. Matt Good. Not that Matt Good. That Matt Good of Northcote.
That Matt Good.
And I said to Jade, a dear friend of mine, and we were the evening and weekend crew, I said, Boss Man said that Glorious Sons can come in and sing a live song with Northcote and do an interview if you're down for it. I'll do all the production for it. She's like, oh, really? That's awesome. I'm going to the show. It's like, great. That'll be great. It happened. And then about an hour after it happened, I got a phone call from the boss saying, just got a call from the label saying that was awesome. Thanks so much. And I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. And that's when I learned it might be a good idea to ask permission for things. But you know, that's where Brett, that was where our friendship was born from. And he looked at me and went, "You're a dangerous fucker." And then 10 years later, you know, we still connect when he's around here. And I just think they're really, really wonderful guys. And they're a great rock band, you know, but they're a rock band that live and die by how they are each day, and they're accountable to it, and they keep growing. And yeah, I'm excited to see the next steps of Glorious Sons.
Sweet.
There's a big old story.
Love it.
So you were saying before this chat, you had a Oh, can we talk about what you were talking about? Like,
yeah, go for it.
Like someone approaching you for a score or anything? Because this is what I'd love to crack into as well. Is one of my favorite song intros that any artist ever sent to me was your one for Voldo, and you're talking about, right, imagine watching the Blade movie and they're all in the nightclub and it's raining blood, and you wanted to score that moment, and that was such a brilliant insight into the song, because it is absolutely bonkers in a great way. So are you leaning into this palette of your creative realm to be down in LA, and is it to survive, or is it because you want to offer all these different outlets?
Honestly, it's fun. It's just like a different way to look at music and to look at time even. Like you spend enough time trying to make, like, you know, songs that could be on the radio or like songs that could be on an album. And as much as like, it's not like we've ever been like, oh, you got to sound like them, so you got to do this and that. We still, you know, you try to write something that's not 12 minutes long. But there actually kind of what spun me a bit in this direction was like, I played the Arts on the Fly festival, like in Horsefly, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And so there's a bunch of cool bands.
Where is that? Sorry?
Horsefly, like northern BC.
Horsefly.
Like, it's a great name. It's probably like whatever 8 or 9 hours north of Vancouver. I'm guessing. I wasn't driving. But whatever. Okay. Every band had these shows, and it's a place like no cell reception. Everyone's camping, and then one of the mornings they were doing like a big yoga thing in front of the main stage. But they had like basically they had put together a band of us to be the music for it.
Oh, Jesus.
And so we got up there, and like, so Lethan Milne was one of them, Graham Searle, me, so like a lot of Lydia's band and then some other folks. But it was this really cool like thing. And Owen Connell, like from Plasteroid, who I love. And if you don't know Plasteroid, listen to them. It's beautiful. And so we kind of got up there, and the thing was like, hey, we're playing for 60 minutes, and we're not playing a song. So if you have an idea that you might think, okay, if you're trying to make a radio song, this idea has to be communicated in about 15 to 30 seconds. Make that take 15 to 30 minutes. Like, get from A to B so slowly. And it was beautiful, man. And we just kind of listened to each other and messed around. And I had like a synthesizer and a bass guitar, and we had a ball. And it just made me think about time totally differently. And when you're scoring a film, it's like, you know, I like funk music. The one's important. And the one. And all of a sudden, one doesn't mean shit. I can make the one the three if I feel like it. And if it makes sense in the scene, you can. So it's just like, it's very uninhibiting. But in that comes infinite possibility, which means you can kind of spin your tires a bit. But yeah, so today, whatever, I had a meeting with this director. I just actually finished the score for a movie, and it's hilarious, and I love it. And actually, Jess Bowen, the woman who drummed for our tour last February, she's in the movie. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but oops. And she's actually, did you watch that drum documentary, Count Me In, on Netflix?
I have not yet. No, I've been I'll be honest with you, it's been all What Was That? And then the only thing that Jodie and I have got into the last little while is watching prison murder documentaries. So
those are great too, yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, watch this movie because you're a drummer and you'll love it, and she's in it, and yeah, she's really cool. But yeah, so basically I'd done this one, and then we were just kind of meeting just to say hey and kind of recap how fun it was to do the thing. And then I met with this dude who has some like real crazy NFT music art project concept that we're just like laying out, and that's why I'm late.
Yeah, I've had a chat with quite a few people about, I mean, Bitletro Labs approached me. They've become quite large in that realm. And I've been keeping my eye on that world and trying to learn from people and discussing with them. But that's interesting, the whole NFT situation.
Yeah, but yeah, if we get to like scoring, it's just like, to me, it has all the stuff I love about music and none of the shit I don't like about the music industry. So it's like, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to bring it back to is, did you see the footage and then you score to it? What's your approach with this? Because you were saying earlier, you know, we're both not big theory men. So how do you go about creating these soundscapes for the film?
Same kind of way I do most of it. Is just like this, like, instead of, sometimes when I write a song, I have like a visual image, and I kind of, even in my head, I try to score that, and that ends up being a rock and roll song. With this, I literally have a visual that I can watch. And then I usually just have all my instruments on, and I just kind of watch it and plunk around, and then restart the scene and plunk around. And then usually something feels right, and then you kind of build off that hook. But it's fun. It feels good, and like it just to have this idea where like, oh, I can just make the song and then give it to the person, and then my involvement has been completed and it is successful. Versus now it's like, if once I make a song, that's like the first step of many to have anyone hear it. And those are like expensive, difficult steps, and you got to get doors slammed in your face and like whatever. It's the rock and roll business. I knew that was going to be hard, and I enjoy it. But sometimes it's nice to just write a song, give it to someone, and they go, "This works. Thank you."
And how much time did they give you to do this film score?
This was quick. Because Cole was coming, I told him I wanted to be done before he showed up. And we basically did. We had like what I call the almost final cut done by then. And it's not a super long movie, but it's like really music heavy. But I got to use a bit of all the blanket stuff to kind of fill in some parts, and they were stoked on that.
Oh,
So,
damn. They've got a death blood fire.
I was doing
scene?
straight up. When this comes out, I'll show you the scene, and you'll know why it worked.
But I mean, also, did they say to you, you've got 2 weeks to do this, or you've got 2 months to do this?
Yeah, basically we had a meeting, and it was about 2 weeks. But like, it's not like that was the only thing I was doing, but I mostly tried to just focus on that because I knew I wanted.
Yeah, that's just interesting
to make
because
it good.
is that your first foray into scoring other people's work?
I've done a handful, but not like it's never been. It's just kind of when it fell in my lap. I did it before, like in Vancouver, but now I'm like trying to kind of seek it out a bit.
Because I mean, I'm just coming from the angle in my mind to flesh out what you've inspired me thinking about is, as you know, when I go through things over and over and over again and strip back each layer and learn every little bit. For me, if someone said, I've got this movie, I need you to do about, 23 minutes worth of scoring for a 35 long picture. You got 2 weeks. I'm not even going to have time to go through every set of emotions, watching it, every angle, that amount of time. Like that would be a really daunting task for me. So that's why I ask, how many of these have you done? And then how have you developed a plan to streamline how you go about getting these tasks done in the first place and to the best ability? Yeah.
Like I would just say it's mostly just like I'm broken record here, but it's just like, trust your gut. If it feels right, it probably is. But you have a lot of control over the scene. So sometimes like there was a few real Hail Marys I tried on this one where I was like, she's either going to love this or absolutely despise it. 'Cause it really, you could, the music had real big fingerprints on the scene. And when it works great. And when it doesn't, you just come up with something else. But the big, like, I took some like major left turns and they dug them. So I'm stoked about those. Once those were in, I was like, oh, we're good. This is breezy.
I look forward to seeing it. And
dude, I'll send it to you when I got it.
I would be remiss in not asking about a story that you've already shot a video about this. You've already put it out there on the internet and Instagram and YouTube. It was a really compelling watch, and you're a brilliant storyteller. It's the one with the RV and that unbelievable chain of events.
Yeah, man, the swarm of flying ants almost lifted the RV up and dropped it in a canyon.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that I could just cheekily play back the video that you did, but I want to see the evolution of this story and how you've come to share it now, because please paint that picture to the viewers and listeners.
So whatever. It's the plague, and no one knows what's going on. So I go to the middle of nowhere. I don't mean like I didn't go to like the town of Joshua Tree. I went to like a street that just goes till it stops, and then I just parked there because that's where I wanted to be. I didn't want to be around people. I had my dog and I had a bunch of instruments. And one day there's just like this buzzing that I hear, and it's like whatever. And I'm recording all day. It's like you often hear buzzing in your headphones, and you're like, fuck, it's either an amp or a pedal or a cable or a power source, and it's annoying finding the buzzing. This time the buzzing was outside. And I look outside and like there's so many of these things like it's like very loud. Like it's unbelievable how loud it is, because there's at this point like hundreds of thousands of them. Or I probably noticed when there's like maybe a couple thousand, I'm like, this thing is sealed. This is Fort Knox, man. I'm fine. And I keep recording for like another hour, and then I like look out the window and like there's lots and lots and lots. But I haven't seen one inside, so I'm still like, we're good. But at some point I get the inkling like I should go look in the back, and I look in the back and there's thousands all over, everything in every direction. But there's not like, I don't know, I'm not an exterminator. I don't have a plan, but I need to do something, and something is probably like drive away from the swarm, or if I open the door, it's game over, and I should just like light the thing on fire. So whatever. I drive away from the swarm a little bit, open the door, and I just start chucking shit. Every single thing I have, I'm throwing into the desert sand. And like this is like a 2-lane highway, so I'm blocking pretty much one of the lanes while I'm doing this. And then it's just like I just felt like Walter White. Like I looked like a Matthew. And I'm in like tie-dye swim trunks and no shirt, and I'm sunburned completely. And Stringer's like so mad at me because he doesn't know what's going on, and he's trying to help, but I can't let him because like you eat 10,000 flying ants, you're gonna get sick probably. So it was a disaster, man. But like hindsight, it was funny, but it was like at the time it was not even slightly funny. And I don't think I had cell reception, so I couldn't even like call Kelsey and be like, just tell me it's gonna be okay. It was just like, it's not gonna be okay, motherfucker. Deal with it.
But how did you deal with it? I mean, because you're in the middle of nowhere. How long did it take for?
I committed tens of thousands of murders. Like literally just like, because they were on every surface, I just put flip-flops on and I just tap danced on them. And then I would sweep them up, and then I would tap dance on them again. And everything's gone except the floor and like hard surfaces. So I just like did so many murders. And at some point, you know, Stringer calmed down and I calmed down, and we pull over and put on some classical music, and I'm just trying to like relax, but like covered in sweat, very upset, dirty as hell. I've put some of the stuff back in the RV at this point. And this is when like a crazy conspiracy theorist just like pulls a Jason Statham e-brake turn, stops beside me, and just starts ranting at full speed. And it's like, you know, I look like a psycho, man. Like I was just like I said, sunburned as hell, rainbow tie-dye swim trunks, and a moose on a leash. And this guy wants to talk to me, which means he's crazier than I look. And it just went on and went on and went on until I just said, brother, thank you for speaking the truth. And then he left. He's just like, oh, put that on the airwaves, buddy. Woo! So it was a nightmare, but it's funny now. But at the time, it was just like, it was heartbreaking, man.
But I just don't know, where would you, I'm a clean freak. Where would you even begin? I mean, but the damage done though, everything after you got them all out of there, did they ruin anything? I mean. No,
nothing, because like they weren't doing anything but hanging out. Like they're probably gross. So yeah, you got to spray a bunch of chemicals and stuff. But then after that, you know, the sun goes down. I'm in the middle of the desert now, not feeling even. It's because like it's, you know, feels super safe in a vehicle. Especially this is America. You know, different dangers when strangers come knocking on your door, right?
Yeah. No.
And then the sun goes down, and like I don't feel great inside or outside of that thing. And it was just like, it's not a great night. But I did bring a sandwich, and I just went and chipped a golf ball along, and Stringer went and grabbed it. It was pretty fun. Made the best of it.
Well, there you go. Have you felt now, after all the time since that happened, that you feel you might use that day to inspire some art?
Sorry, say again.
Have you felt that you might take what happened that day to inspire some art?
Oh, I've stuffed that one down, man. I haven't even considered it.
Don't want to.
But the energy in a moment like that is palpable. So that's not a bad idea. Even just like try to, if it was for a score, try to make a piano part that feels like that felt, and I bet it would be just absolute chaos.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm picturing it. You know, Blade walks in, sits down, and says, "Let's make it rain," but not that kind of rain. Let's make it rain hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of some strange spring fly thing.
Dude. Yeah, it's like if you didn't already feel alone in those moments, you feel super duper alone when it goes south, right? Because I was there on my own volition. I could have stayed in the city. I just didn't want to. So when I recreationally chose to put myself in that isolation, and then that isolation started to be like dreadful, it takes a toll.
And was this before or after you started then recording those great live performances in the desert?
This was a little bit after, because this was by that big. So, one scene from the "I'm Right Here" video where you can see this big ass canyon behind me, and that's where the ants were. Because I woke up that next day, and that's when that happened. But versus like the walking around strumming, that was like my second day maybe. That's like in the park. Whereas this other stuff's kind of more by the Salton Sea. Which, if you look up the Salton Sea, that shit's weird as hell, man. It's like this. It looks like a beautiful lake, but you walk up to it, and there's like, oh, white sand beach, isn't that nice? And then you walk up to it, and the sand really irritates your skin, and then you hold it up, and it's like tiny fish bones.
Oh, hello.
Millions of fish vertebrae. It's gross as hell. And anything that's in that thing dies because it's like some poisonous runoff from something or other. It's like someone diverted a lake backwards, and I'm going to give you all the wrong facts here, but it's weird. And if you have asthma, don't go there because the air is not good for you.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
A great place to make a record.
It seemed, well, it turned out so anyway.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, as we go into the last sort of 5-10 minutes of the hangout here, because it's been so great catching up. But what is the plan now? I mean, all these new projects, and yes, you were saying earlier on in the conversation that there are some other ideas. I mean, but that was more with the scoring, right? So
Yeah.
what do you plan to do with Matchstick Skeletons? I mean, you strike me as not really wanting to get back on the road just yet. I mean, to me, I'm so devastated seeing these constant cancellations. It's not surprising though to see them. We're not through it yet. I don't think.
But it's like,
so.
what if we don't get? What if this is just kind of we live alongside this for the next 5 years? I honestly, I do want to get on the road.
But then how do you financially make that viable, right? Like
that's
Brett
things
today
you
saying
don't-
that 2 shows cancelled in the US. That's a band from Ontario. That's money. That's money gone.
It's a lot, yeah. And you got to think like people always assume if you're on the road, you're printing money. It's like
No.
You know, I've lost money on more tours than I've made it, but I make fans out of it, so that's why I'm fine with losing money on it most time. Especially like opening gigs, like you're not doing that to put money in your jeans. You're doing that to meet people who will come to your next show. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the one. Is like I want to do it, but especially because half the bands in Canada. If we were touring Canada, I'd go out tomorrow. But if we're doing something here, you know, I don't love it when musicians bitch about cash because I just want people to think about songs and I want there to be like a level of escapism when they listen to the records. But the truth is, if we tour here, there's a lot of visas and stuff we got to pay for. So I don't want to do that for a weekend. I want to do that because we're going out for like 2 months.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm just like trying to be a bit patient because I go a bit guns blazing when there's a tour opportunity. I just say yes and figure it out later, and that's occasionally gotten me in some trouble. So I'm trying to just make sure that when we do it, it's for a long time and it's the right thing. And when I announce a tour, I'll tell you if I stuck to that or if I just said yes.
Yeah, there we go. Well,
yeah.
And then in terms of other parts of Matchstick Skeletons, you know, are you fleshing out next steps, or do you feel that you do want to dive more into this before you start the next?
I think that visit with Cole was like getting a blood transfusion, man. It's great. It's just like some ideas that I thought were dead end, he just cracked the code on, and all of a sudden they're brand new. And then there's also just like, well, like what I was saying before, just like this idea of just like listening to each other and improvising in a way that you really can't do sending each other session files, you know? And when we did that, it just felt like, oh, this thing works. And the issue too, man, is like the last show we did was Denver, I guess. 2 shows before that was Seattle, which is the best concert of my entire life. And I've been doing this for like 20 years.
Where did you play?
And it was just like what's that?
Where did you play in Seattle?
That was a Showbox.
Yeah.
And so we were first to 3. So no one knew who the hell we are. And it was like, I can't even describe it, man. And I've been playing shows since I was a child. And it has never, ever felt like that. And so it's just like, okay, proof of concept. This shit's awesome. We just need to do it more. So if anything, like the fire's lit more than ever. It's just, if it's not the right tour, I'm going to sit in this room and make more records.
Yeah, got to be shrewd. There's nothing wrong with protecting rather the long-term projection of where you want to go, rather than shooting yourself in the foot and having the fun end a lot quicker than initially thought. But I mean, at the same time, you're not going to do that, because for the 10 years plus I've known you, growth, step by step.
Yeah, well, it's just like, you know, I'm not good at anything else. That's all I want to do. So it's like I'll find a way to make it work.
But then, because that's where, you know, for me, I set myself goals with what was that. Like, okay, in order for this to work, I was thinking at the start, like, okay, I've got these certain amount of thousands listen to the show every day. Social media following of around 30,000 people, but I since deleted 2 of my 4 social media, got rid of Facebook and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, you know, it's not out of this realm to think, without sounding like a prick, that if 1,000 of these people follow me to this venture and support me, then I will make a livable wage. And so I had initially set goals 14 months ago for, it'd be nice to get to 100 subscribers by 6 months. It'd be nice to get to, 250 by 8, 300 by the year, etc.
Yeah.
And I threw that away probably 3-4 months ago, that sort of thinking, because that then I felt was damaging how I went about creating. And then
Yeah.
It wasn't an extension of my personality, and it wasn't authentic, and certain elements became forced because I felt I had to do things to build a business. And I started catering to, other, this is going to sound horrible. I started catering to what people thought it was going to be and losing sight of my concept of what I was trying to grow it into.
Yeah. And if you're just trying to make the number go up and not your like, authentic interactions with those little numbers that are people, that might not actually be growing, right?
Exactly.
It might just look like it is. And that's just the issue with like the amount of data we have. It's like the music industry too it's ridiculous, man. Like outside of artists, I haven't had a conversation about songs with someone in the music industry in years. Like years. They just want to talk about data. That's the only conversation anyone is really willing to have. And so if I go, hey, I wrote a song and the song is about this and it sounds like this and I think people are going to feel this, you get a blank face. They're like, let's talk. What's the data going to look like? And I'm like, that's your fucking job. But even like a music meeting, people, before they use their ears, they look up the data. And if the data is not significant, they don't open their ears, right? They kick it out of the meeting.
And that's the biggest thing that always annoyed me. I mean, that was what also...
I'm not trying to...
No, you're not slinging mud. You're not slinging mud.
I mean, right?
You're slinging reality. There's systems at place. Look, it's no disrespect to the systems, but there are systems at place. And that was what I loved about when I heard the Zone, when I backpacked years ago, and my cousin was on their dodgeball team and said, check out this modern alt station.
Sweet.
You'll hear Tool, you'll hear Daft Punk, you'll hear Rage, you'll hear Cage Elephant, this new exciting band. And there was the Zone was the first band to play like AWOL Nation, which obviously became huge with Red Bull support.
Yeah.
For Crash Kings that I learned of through the Zone, and even Band of Skulls, who were from Southampton, an hour south from where I lived for years, and never knew of them until I moved to Canada, and the Zone was the only station playing them. So there was some
wiggle. It hit you at the right time. What if imagine it hit you at home and it just didn't feel right, and then you didn't realize how much that band.
Yeah, who knows? But that's where there would be a sprinkling. But for the most part, in music meetings, it would be, well, they're the most streamed this week, or they just got that movie soundtrack deal, or they got this. And then there's also, they're looking into, well, what's the follow-up going to be? Because we don't want to just put this band in here if they've not got a second, third, fourth single. Yeah. And that's what used to really piss me off.
And I get it, like that's a hard job, man. Because in those meetings, you got to cut the head off someone.
No, but you want don't you want the greatest playlist? So therefore, it doesn't matter what the second or third single is. If this song's fucking mecca, get it in. I
agree on that. But like, I've never been in that world, so I try to be, I try to understand it without thinking I ever actually. Oh, you see Stringer walking up the stairs there.
There you go. Stringer cam.
Yeah, dude, it. And whatever, this is when I always remember, like, it is the music business, and. I dedicated my life to music, not quite to the music business, despite the fact that I love it and I hate it. It's like the best and worst thing ever. Because my favorite bands don't play coffee shops. They had to participate in some version or another, or they went so left field and the world came around to them. But doing it on an island's fun but crazy, and I don't know if it'll work,
But how have you? Because for me, I've been really juggling. I've been saying to Jody for what feels like 6 months, I got to get a part-time job. I need maybe that sort of just 1 or 2 day foundation so that I don't feel that I'm failing when I know when I'm not tired that this is going to be a slow build, and I don't want it to be rushed. But I feel also then having moved in with them that I need to bring something a bit more to the table. Harley and Jody have been so incredible to me. So how have you found that life balance in all these years of being a musician? And
I haven't.
Well, right, because it's an ongoing every day, every week, every month.
Changes every week, right? Like, whatever. I just keep bringing it up because he was just here. But like that week when Cole was here, I was just like, I know, that's exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. But then he gets on a plane, and this week's different. And also you turn your passion and your love into your job. That's weird as fuck. It's either a good or a bad idea, but to me, I always just think because I've seen people do this wrong, and I think if you don't protect your relationship with the art form, you fucked your life up. Because how many old, very, very angry sound guys have you met who don't who literally are proud to tell you they do not listen to music because they hate it now? And so I was always really cognizant of that. I'm like, whatever I do in the industry, I need to go home and want to listen to records. And if all of a sudden I've turned this thing into a monster and doesn't make me feel good, then why do I have this like ridiculous occupation? And the truth is, like, I have it because I love it and I want to do it forever as long as it's fun. But I know some people who either didn't make music that they loved, or they did it too long doing shit that didn't feel right, and they knew it. That, like, I've even met musicians, man, who I won't say their names because they probably don't want me to, but like they were just like, I do not listen to music because I play in 10 bands and it's exhausting, and when I put records on, it makes me think about the work that I need to do. And I've slapped them across the face and made them listen to like cool shit that they've never heard, to remember that like it's fun. It's so fucking fun. It's the most fun thing ever, but only if you let it. And you can let anything destroy you. So don't let the best thing on planet Earth destroy you, because songs are nice.
Yeah, that definitely leans into, thanks for sharing that. That leans into exactly how sometimes you feel that you've just got to keep adding things to you've got to keep getting badges and pins on your collection. You've got to keep doing more and more and more and more, and it will grow. Man, that's soul destroying. That's like someone floating over their body playing in a cover band or whatever, or Guns to Hire bass player or whatever. That sucks to hear that, because they've just committed so much they've lost track of where the love came from.
Yeah.
It's just purely survival.
Like, truly made it into any old job. And I'm like, cool, then you should have any old job and go home and listen to music and like want to go to concerts. And I think you'd be happier, versus like having this kind of cool job. And like, no disrespect to people who do it and love it, because I know lots of people who do that and have a fucking ball, and I think that's awesome. It's just like there's some specific times I've seen this happen, and it just makes me sad. Because like if songs don't make you feel good anymore, then you've like really, something has gone terribly awry.
Yeah.
Like when no one else will listen to you, songs will.
But then think of the energy they're channeling through the instrument they're playing when playing with those bands.
Yeah.
How is there any soul in that?
Yeah, and like whatever. Maybe there's some bands that works for it, where like you don't, the feel isn't that important, or like there's fuckloads of tracks, so like you're playing over something that's already there. But like,
yeah,
I never wanted to end up there, because I'd seen it happen, and it just made me sad.
Yeah, that for some reason that story reminds me of when I worked, and it's come up 4 times now, when I was stacking shelves in the produce department. And there was a gentleman who, I forget his name, but he had been the guy that collected the trolleys from all around the car park. And he'd done that for 35 years. And he went viral, I think, a handful of years after I left, because he was always dancing. He'd always have headphones on and dance and get the trolleys. Sweet. And he was like, the 70-year-old man dancing on TikTok or something. I have to try and find that.
What a good man.
And I remember speaking to him in the lunch hall once and being like, you chose to be here for 35 years. And he was like, I get paid to listen to music and dance every single day, baby. That's
sweet.
That's it. So I
what
said,
a champ.
That was it. And that always, that I'd forgotten that existed until just now.
It can be that simple.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
But that's why, you see, I've been saying to Jody, I'll just go and stack shelves again, because I know that, I've not been able to go to gym and my exercise. I feel like, yes, we go on these hikes and these walks, but I want to do more physical stuff. And I'm like, even just for the mentality of that and chilling out and grounding my body, just like, I just want to go and fucking lift around some banana crates and stuff, and then come back and shoot shit with people like you. Yeah,
dude. That's, I basically picked up surfing last year, and now it's like all I think about. And it's the only thing I've ever loved like music. But, I don't have all this. I'm not a professional surfer, so it's just fun all the time. And like 90% of it, you're not doing anything. You're just kind of sitting out there floating, looking at dolphins and stuff. And it's like, that's just beautiful reminder of like, it can be this simple. And like, you have to be present doing that. 'Cause if you're not present, the next one hits you in the face and it hurts.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing to like, it's easy when I'm making songs to think too far ahead and be like, okay, well, if this is good, then I got to pitch it to this person, or I got to hire a publicist and labels it. And then all of a sudden, the completion of the song looks like, oh, it's also, this much money and time, which is dumb. That's a terrible thing to think about when you're working on songs. So I try really hard not to do that. And when I get in that zone, just go surfing, because you cannot be thinking about money. You can't be thinking about who the prime minister is. You can't be thinking about that, because if you're not there, something bad happens. So you just have to actually be there. And I try to just take that into music and just remember that, like, when I'm actually here, thinking about music and thinking about the song, good things always happen.
Well said. Yeah, for me, that inspired when I'm on a motorbike. When I'm on a motorbike,
Yeah.
if you're in your
yeah,
own
you
head and swearing at yourself or swearing at others, you're going to crash and it's going to suck. You just got to be
have a long
present.
blink on a motorbike.
Yeah, you have to be present. Jody, my partner, saying in chat, yes, it's how skateboarding felt for her. Kept her in her body and not thinking about anything else other than just being in that moment.
That's
And then,
beautiful, Jody.
but then she broke her ankle on a skateboard, and that put a slight kibosh. That was summer 2020. What a year!
I compound fractured my elbow on a motorbike last year. I don't do that anymore.
Oh, good grief! Oh, for
also,
goodness sake!
For goodness sake, Jody's my middle name. How lovely.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Jody. Wonderful Jodies all around us here. But the surfing scares the crap out of me though, because I mean, I can't swim. That's a whole other story from an incident when I was a kid, and so I just if someone dropped me off a boat, I would float and be like really unhappy about it. You know, I wouldn't try and survive. I'd just try and relax my body and let it float, knowing that it would do that. But I'd be like, you're getting me. I'm not going to swim to you. I'm not moving. Just in case anyone ever watches this and thinks, fuck it, drop that guy in a lake. Let's get rid of him.
Don't.
But how he said dolphins, I mean, that's what scares me even more than the fact I can't swim very well. Sharks, snapping turtles, piranhas, right? All very natural and found in the oceans.
Yeah, but I think about them like I think about like earthquakes. Like at some point, earthquake's gonna rip this thing in two. But like if I spend all day thinking about it, it's gonna be really hard to have a nice time. And so yeah, it's possible, but statistically it is unlikely, and so I choose to not think about it. But I did watch Jaws, and that was a terrible idea because then it was hard to surf for a couple weeks after that.
You decided to watch Jaws when you start to learn surfing?
It was just I was in a hotel in San Diego, and it was on, and it's a pretty good movie, but you think about it a lot after.
Well, maybe it's just the universe being like, watch your fucking back.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to see this guy, but his cousin's
You can usually
horrible.
tell when it's a dolphin because like the dorsal fin's curved, but when they come right at you, it looks vertical, and that's the only time it's really freaky is when they're like right at you.
Jesus.
So far, nothing's happened.
Do you put a GoPro on it at all?
No, I've hopped out with one of those once or twice, but I don't have one like on the board or anything.
All right. Well, I mean, you've captured everything else. When are we going to see the?
I've tried a couple of things, but nothing I love. But if I come up with something cool, I'll send it to you.
It's like actually Jody and we spoke with an artist called Sophia Fitch.
Cool.
And she had this brilliant, she writes really heartfelt, gentle but quirky vibed music. And she had got a friend who said, I want to shoot this video underwater and just do like a one shot, couple just dancing and underwater. And I just thought, you'll find a way, right? GoPro on the surfboard, just get the dolphins underwater, getting them kiss the GoPro, coming at you like you think we're a shark. We're fucking not. You're fine. Then it comes above water. You dive, you go running towards. I've thought this out very clearly. You go running to the beach. The whole band's there, right? S'mores.
Right, get on a plane.
Performing.
You're directing. I'm in.
Yeah. We'll somehow try and get like Seth Rogen to be there, just laughing.
Perfect. It can just be the soundtrack anyway.
I only say that because I watched that awkward. He was, I think, chatting on Stephen Colbert about how he was, or was it? I don't know. It was Colbert or Kimmel or Fallon or someone.
Yeah.
Just someone who was talking about that he was at an Adele concert and he was in the front row and he and his wife were just so stoned and the camera was on them the whole show and he's like, Drake's behind me. This is wrong. And I was just watching that earlier. It was just hilarious.
Oh, that was like when they did at Griffith Park.
Yeah, like only a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Seth Rogen's just like, why did they put me here? I'm so high. and he's just like looking at himself on this huge screen like, my face is so big. Anyway.
It'd be distracting to have in the front row, really.
I didn't think I was going to be doing that god-awful impression today.
No, now you got to do it every time.
Shit. So hopefully Harley's got the headphones on upstairs playing Roblox or Minecraft and didn't have to be privy to that because that was a solid 5 out of 10. No, this has been wonderful, man.
Dude, I love chatting with you always, so thank you for having me.
I'm hesitant to miss out on any other details as my brain tries to send words to my lips as fast as possible. But
just do it again later.
Yeah, I think we've covered so much great ground. Actually, what I'd like to do, did I ask you to do an artist recommending artists situation yet?
well, you sent me the page because I've been like working on a write up.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, but I haven't done it. Sorry, I haven't finished
Sorry,
it.
I didn't mean to
It's been on
scold you for your
I've had
homework.
this tab open. I've had this tab open, plunking around. It's just like it feels like a heavier task than it is because like it's my favorite thing is just show people music. But I think I'm taking it too seriously. I just got to shake it off and just send you some songs I like.
But I mean, I like the fact that that's the mindset you're in. I've definitely found that. I've asked probably 200 bands. That's not a flex. It's just because, you know, half of those I've met. Well, half of those I've met because I've shared the playlist on Instagram. They say, hey, thanks for playing it. I'm like, hey, and then we either get a conversation and then I ask them in the conversation after we've made friends for a few hours like this. I mean, this is an extension of our friendship, but for those that I've not met. Yeah. And certainly 70% get very, oh shit, I'm not a writer. I can't write for the New York Times or Rolling Stone. I'm like, no. Even if it's just a sentence and you're like, this is really cool to me, and they're from Denver. Like, just, you know, it is what it is. But
yeah.
Well,
I mean, what I'll say, I'll give you one record as well while we're on the air here. A dude that everyone knows from other stuff, like Damon Albarn, the dude from Blur and Gorillaz and Good, the Bad, and the Queen. He's like my hero, man. I think he's like a very special dude. Actually, today I just bought tickets to see him solo on piano with the LA Philharmonic at like the Walt Disney Concert Hall. And I've never even been in that building. I'm so stoked. So that's in January. His first solo record, Everyday Robots. I feel like he has so many gigantic projects that just slipped under a lot of radar and no one talked about it. It's beautiful. And it just like, it's different than any of his other things. And it kind of talks about technology addiction, but like a lot of years ago, kind of before it got as bad as it is now. And yeah, Everyday Robots. Put that on and there's no way it fucks your day up. And
this will serve as a lovely, gentle reminder to say that if you could focus on music released in the last 12 to 18 months.
Oh, should have done that. Okay. With the other stuff.
That could be, no, because one of my friends, Austin, sent me like songs from 5 months to 50 years ago. So yeah, you still add that on there. That's
what I was going to do originally. So I'm glad you told me that.
Well, still add that on there as your, just in case you wanted to go even further back. Yeah. But his new album now, I was reading the press release the other day about how he'd spent time living in Iceland, and it inspired him that where the hotel or the room or whatever he'd rented was literally right 50 meters from the ocean. And so he would just wake up in the morning, get a cuppa, go and sit down at this piano, and then just create from whatever inspired him in front of him, you know, different storms, whether it was raining, snowing, etc. And so he's just someone that is just so multifaceted and versed in so many genres. He's a genius. He really is.
Yeah, he's a truly magical bastard, that guy.
I definitely had a question for you, but oh yeah, that was it. Was what I'd like to do next time is, and I say this to every guest as well, is I would like to do like a couple of mixes each year. So then usually when I speak to bands, I'll say, here's 5 bands I'd like you to know about that are inspired by and similar to you. And it'd be cool if you could even team up to tour or whatever, and just etc. And that's what I'd like to bring you back in on next time in you know, April or May or something, where we bring in like, you know, Loser from Australia or Bexley that are down in California as well, or etc. and Kick a Peach in England, and get you to know all these great rock bands. And so that maybe when the world opens up again, either you're going to their show or you, oh shit, we're on the same bill, etc. You know, just make new friendships and build the community.
Yeah, dude, I love that. Like and something I've avoided my whole life, and I'm trying to just do more, is just write with people, because it's real easy to write on your own, and it's real easy to, when things get hard, pretend it's on purpose or pretend it's fine. But when someone's in your studio and you're using each other's time, you just think differently and you get more different types of stuff done. So like, I'm just being open to that in a way I wasn't open to before.
I almost feel like we should make a parody song as a collective somehow as well. You know, like have the mixer
live,
and meet. Not live. No, have like the mixer and meet. And then if some really hit it off and we want to make like a stupid comedy song that's a minute long or whatever, then we all just, you know, shoot the shit and get it all thrown into the mixer and send it around and do it. I don't know. We'll flesh that out when we get to it. I was hoping for live, but the way that you reacted suggests that I won't push. I won't push too hard on that.
Too spooked.
Because I wouldn't be able to play any instruments. I'd just be here, you know, doing some BVs and writing some comical lines and utilizing my reverb to the utmost ability.
Well, reverb is always humorous. That's the good thing about it.
Yeah, it really does. You know, it's like fart is okay, but then fart, you know,
it's funnier. Tell me one listener who thinks that isn't funnier.
Ace of Twos, thanks for following a few seconds ago. Miles 1889, good grief. I'm surprised some of your age figured out how to use Twitch. I know it's Miles in Soup. Love to you. Thanks for both following the account as I etch up towards 50 followers in this newly launched Twitch. What was that radio experience? But no, Neu, thanks so much, man. It's been so good to catch up with you.
Honestly, I love chatting with you. You know,
and it's testament to how long we've been talking in the sense that the room behind you is very dark now.
It's dark. Sun is set, people.
2 hours of it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, love to you and the family. And
back at you, brother.
yeah, no, just thank you so much for your time. I'm trying not to cough.
You did good. I figured you'd be hacking away.
I've run out of the throat coat tea, so
Oh yeah.
it's coming back. I'll spare you that. Lots of love, man. I'll speak to you soon. And also, just so you know, in summary, this will live on Twitch for about 2 weeks. Then they clear it due to storage space. But you are... it gets released on YouTube and as part of the podcast in, sorry, this is just a reality, great reality, 17 weeks from now. So you will,
all right, deal.
You will get the chance to review it if you want to review it and take anything out or not. But I sense that it'll be all okay and greenlit to go. But I'll show you what it is before it goes out live.
Sweet. Thanks, man.
All right, man.
Okay. You have yourself a nice evening. Good
You
chat.
too.
Okay. Cheers, buddy.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
All right. That was a conversation with the Matchstick Skeletons. And thank you so flipping much for being here. You can find out more on What Was That Radio at whatwasthatradio.com. You can find out more about Neu and Matchstick Skeletons, care of the links below. And whatever you're doing the rest of your day, and as always, please look after yourself. I hope there's some fun and smiles involved in the rest of your day too, because we've got to just flipping, we've got to cherish that positive. I'm taking the mickey out of my own ending, but it's true. I note down all the positive moments to reflect on when shit is hitting the fan and when sludge is tough going. Thanks for being here. Cheerio for now.